inspirational. Turn your radios. Sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. Sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. If you want that grounding inspirational, then turn your radio to the Four Corner Show. Hot and spicy topics, come enjoy the show. So let's get personal on the Four Corner Show. Four Corner Show. You gotta sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. If you want that inspirational, then turn your radios.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Doing well.
Good. Thank you guys for joining us. If you are joining us, we welcome you to Four Corners with Pepper Thomas, along with Mark A. Walker and Michael Upshaw. Yeah, we're here on a Tuesday, twice a month. That's when you find us. So, of course, go over to our YouTube channel, which is Four Corners on YouTube. It's the number 4 Corners with Pepper Thomas, and subscribe. So that way, hit the notification button and you will be able to know when we are on. It'll just say, hey, y'all need to tune in because they're on. So, I just got my voice back. So I'm doing overtime. But how was your weekend?
My weekend was great.
What did you do, Mark A. Walker?
You know what I do. I play at church. That's it. No weekend with Will. This coming weekend, yes, but this past weekend, got to chill at home, do music, and chill at home. Did a few sessions for Mr. Michael Upshaw, my Paris Music. That was great, though. It was great.
Yes.
Good.
Got some hot music coming out.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear it.
Oh, my goodness.
It better be hot, because you know my name is Pepper.
We got you. We got you on this one. You're going to like this.
Yeah. I'll be like, I don't know. So how was your weekend, Michael?
My weekend was great, relaxing, just laid back, didn't do too much of anything, just worked on some music and learning some music. Got a lot of singing coming up in the next few weeks, getting prepared for Resurrection Sunday and, recording and just that's about it. Yeah. So how was your weekend?
My weekend was good. South by Southwest was in town, of course, and I had to interview some artists on my radio show. But it was good, and I have to mention, y'all. I went out of town, y'all. I went out of town, and I got surprised. I'm just overwhelmed right now. I'm just like, so I got surprised. I went to Pennsylvania. And I was told that I need to stop saying this, but I'm not going to stop saying it. I went to Pennsylvania and it was dirty.
What? Oh, no. Don't.
I was like,
wait. We have Philadelphia, Pennsylvania fans or people watching this show now.
That's fine. Watch on. Y'all can learn some things from people in Texas. We don't litter. We get fined for littering. They have signs all over the road going, you throw it out. Yeah, we see you. It was just, I wasn't used to, I thought I was in New York. Yeah. Along with the graffiti and the trash. I was like, oh my Lord, do people not throw trash in the trash can? It's in their front yard. It's on the street. It's on the curb. It's like, dang. Like,
well,
yeah.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
I didn't see nobody out there trying to pick that up to make no money. Okay.
Wow.
Well, just the sanitation department they weren't working at that particular time, but I'm sure
That's funny because I mentioned it to other people here in Texas, and they said, "You ain't never lied." I went to Philadelphia, and I was like, "Oh my Lord!" It was just. I said,
So,
"Yeah,
but I'm sure that you saw some great things while you were in Philadelphia.
I did." Well, I did. I went to South.
Wow.
Okay. Great place to go.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it, it was a surprise, right? Yeah, see this person right here? How do I point? No, not this right here. This person right here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right there.
With
Almost
the
let
black
almost let the cat out of the bag. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it was a surprise given by Mr. Michael Upshaw,
You're
and he
welcome.
got together with Mark A. Walker came in from D.C., Maryland area on the train. I thought we were about to be robbed in the car. I was like, "We're getting in the bag. Who ain't got no money? Oh, what they doing?"
Why you gotta be getting robbed? That's the thing. Why you gotta be getting
I know,
robbed?
right?
Because
It- it-
Bringing you a
so,
present. They could be bringing you some cookies or something. Why you gotta be getting robbed?
who gonna bring me some cookies?
So you don't know. I'm just saying.
Who gonna bring me
so
some chicken?
It's some polite people in Pennsylvania.
Who gonna bring me some chicken? Who gonna bring me some cookies?
and who else did you see though?
Yeah.
I saw Mark A. Walker. I got to meet Dexter. What is Dexter's last name?
More.
Okay, I got to meet Dexter Moore for the first time. I didn't know his last name. So Dexter Moore.
Uh-huh.
I got to see Carl Cox.
Uh-huh.
I got to see Carol Riddick.
Wow.
That's my girl. And I got to meet Gerald Beasley for the first time. And I got to meet Karen Briggs.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was a great surprise. I really enjoyed it. It was it was good to just sit down amongst people and just have a great time, you know?
That's right.
Yes, that was. It was a great time. Great
Yeah.
music. It's a
Yeah.
great
Speaking
show.
of Carl Riddick, we got to give a shout out to her when her new single is out. Gas Hard is coming out March 25th.
Yes.
Carl Riddick.
Yes.
Yes.
Carol Riddick. Please go get it. Yes.
Yes.
Get it,
Yes.
get it, get
Yeah,
it.
we'll go get it.
Yes. So yeah, it was great. So it was a great getaway. It was cold, colder than Texas, but it was cool. I had the right equipment. I had the right hoodie. I had the right boots and all of that. So it was good. I had a great time. So thank you again, Michael Upshaw.
Yes, sir.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Everybody that came out, we had a good
Yeah.
time. It was a great night.
Yeah, it was good, and the food was good too. Them greens and them sweet potatoes and that chicken and them crab cakes. Oh,
Oh yeah.
and that cornbread. Oh, Lord
Yeah.
Jesus, it was so good. Okay. I almost asked him, "Did y'all have some jelly for that cornbread?" I was like, "No, I'm not gonna act like I'm from yeah."
Jelly.
Yeah, you
That's
put
the
jelly
first
on
time.
cornbread. I put jelly on cornbread.
First time I've ever heard that in my life.
Well,
Honey, maybe butter and honey, but
jelly,
jelly,
yes,
no.
grape jelly or strawberry jelly.
Well, I
Don't
know
get me
one
started.
thing. Our guests might be getting hungry listening to us talk about this.
I agree with you, Mike. I agree with you.
Before they leave.
Yeah.
He is smiling in the background. He's like food. Did they mention some cornbread and some? He probably said cornbread and jelly pepper. Really? I don't know. So everyone, we are excited to have this gentleman on. We have been waiting patiently, like for this date to come because we got questions. You know how you be like, "Ooh, what am I gonna ask this gentleman when he comes on?" So I would like to introduce y'all. His name is Mr. Daryl Davis. Let me bring him on right now. Welcome to Four Corners, Mr. Daryl Davis. Welcome.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you.
You are welcome. So did we make you hungry? Were you back there going, "Well, I need some cornbread and greens"? And
Yeah, my stomach was jumping up and down.
you're like, "Where they eating at? I need to go there." So we welcome you. We thank you for coming on out of your busy schedule because you're
But
busy.
did you go all the way to Philadelphia? Didn't have a Philadelphia cheesesteak?
I did have one.
All right.
I'd had one. It was big. Like, and I was like, what about, like, can we get a 6-inch? It was like, I was like, so I ate it in 2 days.
But you should be used to that because they tell me, everything is big in Texas, right?
It is, but I don't need everything big in Texas.
All right.
I'm not a burrito girl. They eat burritos, and burritos in Texas are bigger than tacos. It's like my sister eat burritos. I believe it's too much. Yeah. So I let me get it in sections and let me half it with someone. So yeah. So yes. So Mr. Walker, what is yours?
Well, Mr. Daryl Davis, we want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank
of course, you are known for the gentleman who infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan. But
I don't really say infiltrated. Infiltrate tends to mean you go undercover. Nobody knows you're in there. I didn't infiltrate. But I certainly got in there with them, and I still do that to this day.
Well, I guess I'm using the Hollywood terms because Hollywood twists the story, so
right.
A lot of people would go by the terminology. But take us down your road of life, how you got to where you are, and what got you where you are, and doing what you're doing right now. There's no wrong way of saying it because I know a lot of people want to know. Well, who is this guy? Where did he come from? How did he get here? Give us a little background about your music and what got you. What was your story to get you there?
Okay, well, let's start at the beginning. Well, first of all, I'll be 67 years of age next week. But let's go back to my childhood. As a child, my parents were in the U.S. Foreign Service. So I grew up as an American embassy kid. And you get assigned by the State Department to various embassies around the world. I started traveling around the world at the age of 3 in 1961. And how it works is you get assigned to a country, to the American embassy, for 2 years in whatever country you're assigned to. At the end of the 2 years, you come back home here to the States. You're here for a few months, maybe a year, and then you get assigned to another country abroad. So back and forth were the formative years of my life. My first introduction to school was abroad. I did kindergarten, first grade, third grade, fifth grade, seventh grade, all in different countries, in different schools. Now, here's the interesting thing. The in-between grades I did back home here in the States. I'm from Chicago originally. My parents are from Virginia. Now, my classmates in kindergarten, first, third, fifth, and seventh grade were from all over the world because any school that I went to, if we overseas, if there was a foreign embassy also in that country, all of their kids went to the same school. So this little girl sitting at this desk next to me over here, she might have been from Czechoslovakia. This kid here might have been from Japan. The kid in front of me, maybe Russia or Nigeria, Italy, France, Germany, Sweden. All those embassy kids were in my school. So I was exposed to multiculturalism. In fact, the term didn't even exist back then. I remember when the word multiculturalism came out. You had multi-culturalism. Now it's all one word. But if you were to open the door to my classroom and put your head and look in, you would say, oh my goodness, this looks like a United Nations of little kids, because that's exactly what it was. And when I would return home back here to the States, I would either be in all Black schools or Black and white schools, meaning the still segregated or the newly integrated. And just because desegregation was passed 4 years before I was born, 1954 was when the Supreme Court passed desegregation, it did not mean that schools integrated overnight. It took years. And in some cases, even today, in 2025, some parts of this country are still trying to deal with integration of schools. So I was either in all Black schools or Black and white schools. One of the times I came home, I was age 10, 1968. I was in the 4th grade, and I was in one of these newly integrated schools in the state of Massachusetts. I was one of 2 Black kids in the entire school, myself in 4th grade and a little Black girl in 2nd grade. So consequently, all of my friends were white. They were 4th and 5th graders. Several of my male friends were members of the Cub Scouts, and they invited me to join. 1968, I joined the Cub Scouts. I was the only Black Scout anywhere around. And we had a parade. I believe they still have that parade today. It's called Patriots Day. And you have all these different organizations, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Brownies, Girl Scouts, 4-H Club, you name it. And they marched from Lexington, Massachusetts to Concord, Massachusetts to commemorate the ride of Paul Revere. So here I am marching with my fellow scout troop, and the only black participant in the parade. The streets are blocked off. The sidewalks are lined with nothing but white people who are waving and cheering and smiling and yelling, "The British are coming." Everything was going fine until we got to the certain point in this parade route when suddenly I'm getting hit with bottles and rocks and soda pop cans and small debris, from the street by just a small group of spectators off to my right on the sidewalk. I looked over to see who's throwing these things, and maybe it was 4 or 5 people. I remember there being a couple of kids, maybe a year or two older than me, and a couple of adults who were throwing things. And they were yelling and screaming. I couldn't really hear what they were saying because there's like a marching band and all kinds of noise going on. And because I never had a precedent for this behavior, my first thought was, oh, these people over here don't like the Scouts. That's how naive I was. I did not realize that I was the only Scout getting hit until my Scout leaders came running and covered me with their bodies and quickly escorted me out of the danger. And I'm trying to find out what's going on. I said, what did I do? I didn't do anything. Why are they doing this? And all they would do is kind of shush me and rush me along, tell me to keep moving, everything will be fine. They never answered my question as to why. And I saw that no other Scouts were getting this special protection other than me. So now I'm trying to figure out what happened. I had no clue. By the end of the parade, I still had no answer. They didn't answer my question. I went home, and my mother and father could not attend the parade that day. They had something else they had to do. And so they're cleaning me up, putting Band-Aids on me, and asking me, how did you fall down and get all scraped up? I told them I did not fall down. I told them exactly what had transpired. And for the first time in my life, my mom and dad sat me down and explained to me what racism was. Believe it or not, at the age of 10, I had never even heard the word racism because it did not exist in my world. And that's why it's so important to understand that background. I was brought up around everybody from all over the world, different colors, different religions, different ethnicities, different cultures. That word racism did not exist. That behavior did not exist in my sphere. I did not experience it until I was age 10 back home in my own country, which is why I did not understand it. And when my parents were explaining that it happened to me because of the color of my skin, my 10-year-old brain could not process what they were saying was true, because I could not understand how somebody who had never seen me, somebody who had never spoken with me, someone who knew absolutely nothing about me would want to inflict pain upon me for no other reason than this, the color of my skin. It made no sense. And I thought my parents were lying to me. And to prove that they were wrong and I was right, I pointed out the fact that the people over here on the sidewalk who were throwing the things did not look any different to me than my friends at school or my friends in the Cub Scouts or my friends back overseas, whether they were my fellow Americans at the embassy or my little French or Danish or Swedish or Australian friends. They looked the same as those people over there on the sidewalk. Color had nothing to do with why this was happening. And my parents assured me it did, so I didn't believe them. But shortly thereafter, that same year, 1968, on April the 4th, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And I remember it very, very well. Every major city in this country, including nearby where I was then, Boston, burned to the ground. My hometown of Chicago burned to the ground. Where I am right now, Washington, D.C., burned to the ground. Baltimore, Philadelphia, Detroit, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, you name it, burned to the ground, all in the name of this new word I had learned called racism. So now I realize my parents had told me the truth. This phenomenon does exist. I accepted that, but I did not understand why. Why do people hate one another because of the color of the skin? So at that age, I formed a question in my mind, which was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? And that was the question I came up with at the age of 10. And for the next 57 years, I've been looking for the answer to that question. As a teenager and through my adulthood, I would buy books and all kinds of stuff on Black supremacy, white supremacy, the Ku Klux Klan, anti-Semitism, racism, the Nazis in Germany, the neo-Nazis over here. To try to find the answer to that question, I would ask people, you know, how can somebody hate somebody just because of the color of their skin? The answer I would get would be, oh, Daryl, you know, some people are just like that. That's how it is. They're just like that. Well, that's not an answer for me. So I've been looking for that. Now, I graduated high school, went on to college, went to Howard University in Washington, D.C., got my degree in jazz performance music. And music became my profession. But studying on my own, race relations became my obsession, because I'm still looking for the answer to that question. So after I had graduated, you know, I started playing music full time, which is what I do now, and lecture. And I joined a country music band. Country music had made a return. There was a movie, you're in Texas, Pepper. There was a movie that was filmed predominantly in Texas called Urban Cowboy.
Yes.
John Travolta, Gillies, Mickey Gilly. I got And anyway, there was a lot of country music in that movie. Now, country music had fallen off the charts. It was no longer up on the top 40. It was always around, but it wasn't mainstream. But this movie made it mainstream again. And a lot of the clubs and bars, you know, where you had bands that were playing top 40 and disco and whatever else was going on back then, they switched their format to country. So if you want to work full time, you know, you play every night and stuff, you played country music. So I joined this country band. And let me tell you something. Country music and the blues are kissing cousins. It's the same music, the same three chords, 1, 4, and 5. And it's society, it's man that puts us in boxes and categories and separates us even musically. It's the same music. So anyway, I was the only Black guy in this band that I joined. And they were pretty well established here in the Maryland area. And they had played this place in a town called Frederick. Frederick, Maryland sits about an hour and 20 minutes north of Washington, D.C. And there's a place there, or there was, the place is still there, but it's defunct now. Somebody got murdered there a few years ago, so they shut it down. But it was called the Silver Dollar Lounge. And the Silver Dollar Lounge had a wide reputation as being unwelcoming to Black people. I knew the reputation long before I ever went there. And so the band had played there before, and now they were going there again. But now I'm in the band, right? So I'm thinking, you know, this is going to be interesting, because I knew all about the reputation. But I had a job to do. I'm going to go. So I go to the Silver Dollar Lounge. Yeah, people looked at me when I came in, but once we started playing, you know, people got up and they danced and carried on. Right on the break, after the first set, I'm following the band to go sit down at a table with them, and I feel somebody from behind reach over and put their arm across my shoulder. Now, I don't know anybody in this joint, right? So I'm turning around trying to see who's touching me. And it was this white gentleman, maybe 15, maybe 20 years older than me. Big smile on his face. And he says, "Man, I sure love your all's music." I said, "Thank you." I shook his hand. And he pointed at the stage. And he said, "You know, I've seen this here band before, but I ain't never seen you before. Where'd you come from?" And I explained, well, yes, they told me they played here before, but this is my first time. I just joined the band a couple months ago. Well, man, I sure love your piano playing. This is the first time I ever heard a Black man play piano like Jerry Lee Lewis. And I was not offended by that statement, but I was surprised because this guy was at least a decade and a half, maybe 2 decades older than me. And he did not know the Black origin of Jerry Lee Lewis's piano style. So I proceeded to explain it to him. You know, Jerry Lee got that style from the same place I did, from Black, blues, and boogie-woogie piano players. That's where that rockabilly, rock and roll style comes from. Oh, no. I ain't never heard no Black man play like that. Jerry Lee, you know, created that. And I said, no. You know, I said, look, man, I know Jerry Lee Lewis. He's a good friend of mine. He's told me himself about his influences. He didn't believe that either. But he was fascinated with me and wanted me to come back to his table and have a seat and let him buy me a drink. Now, I don't drink alcohol. I never did. But I let him buy me a cranberry juice. He paid the waitress, took his glass and clinked my glass, and he cheered me. And then he said, you know, this is the first time I ever sat down and had a drink with a black man. And now I'm like totally baffled. Like, what kind of mystery is this?
Right.
You know, how can this be? Because at that point in my life, I had sat down literally with thousands, tens of thousands of white people or anybody else and had a meal, a beverage, a conversation. How is it that this guy had never done that before? And I know for a fact that there are black people in Frederick, Maryland. I've seen them. So how did he somehow miss them all these years? And I asked him, I said, why? And he didn't answer me. He stared down at the tabletop. I asked him again, and his buddy sitting next to him elbowed him and said, tell him, tell him, tell him. And I said, tell me. And he looked back at me just as plain as day, and he said, I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Well, I started laughing at him because I thought the guy was joking, right? I know a lot. I know a whole lot about the Klan. In fact, I know more about the Klan than most Klan members, right? And I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But so, you know, that's why I had all these books already. I'd read all these books on the Klan. And I know they don't just come up and embrace a black guy, put their arm around his shoulder and want to buy him a drink and hang out and converse. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So this guy's joking. I'm laughing at his joke. He went inside his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and handed me his Klan membership card. I recognized the Klan emblem, which is a red circle with a white cross and a red blood drop in the center of the cross. I stopped laughing. This thing was for real. It wasn't funny. I gave it back to him. But he was very friendly. You know, we talked about the Klan and different things. He gave me his phone number and wanted me to call him whenever I was to return to this Silver Dollar Lounge with the band, because he wanted to bring his friends, you know, Klansmen and Klanswomen, to see, as he put it to me, to see the black guy who plays piano like Jerry Lee. I'm not sure that he called me the black guy to his friends, but that's how he explained it to me, right? And I said, okay. So I'd call him every 6 weeks and say, hey, man, you know, we're going to be down at the Silver Dollar this weekend. Come on out. He would come, and he would bring Klansmen and Klanswomen, not in robes and hoods, but in regular clothing. And they'd gather near the stage, watch me play with the band. They'd get out on the dance floor and dance. And then on the break, I'd make my way over to his table through the audience, you know, thank him for coming. Most of the people that he brought, the Klan people, they would stay at the table because they were curious and wanted to meet me and talk to me. But two of them did not. When they see me coming, they'd get up and they'd walk across to the other side of the room. You know, so the message implied was, we don't want to touch you, shake your hand, or talk to you. You know, we just want to look at you, which is fine by me, right? As long as you don't try to hurt me or anything. So that went on until the end of that year. And then I quit that band and I went back to playing rock and roll and R&B and whatever else was going on. And a few years later, it dawned on me, you know, I lost contact with the guy because I didn't have any reason to go to Frederick and hang out with the Klan, except, you know, when I was, you know, working, playing music at the place. So now I'm playing rock and roll and different genres of music, you know, and I'm not playing at the Silver Dollar anymore. So I lost contact. But a few years later, it dawned on me, Daryl, you blew it. The answer to your question that's been plaguing you since the age of 10, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? It fell right into your lap and you didn't even realize it. Who better to ask that question of than someone who would go so far as to join an organization that has over 100-year history of practicing hating people who don't look like them or who don't believe as they believe. Get back in contact with that guy. You know, get him to introduce you to the leader of the Klan here in Maryland. Interview that guy, go around the country, interview other Klan leaders and other Klan members up north, down south, Midwest, West, and write a book about it. Because no book had been written by a Black author on the Ku Klux Klan from in-person, face-to-face interviews. All the books had been written by white authors. There had been 2 books written by Black authors that dealt with the Klan and talked about the Klan. And these 2 guys, each one of these authors escaped a lynching, one in the 1930s and one in the 1940s, but not from the perspective of sitting down face-to-face interviewing their prospective lynchers. So that was the motivation for me to get out there and write a book. And I wanted to be the first Black author to write a book on the Ku Klux Klan, from in-person, face-to-face interviews. And I've written 2 books. And this one came out in 1997 called Clandestine Relationships. It's now out of print. And my brand new book just came out about a month ago called The Klan Whisperer. And it details, 45 years of my exploring this, and I continue to do this. It's up on Amazon. So I suggested, if you're interested in this story, definitely pick up a copy of The Klan Whisperer on Amazon.com. So I got back in contact with that Klansman, and I persuaded him I wanted him to introduce me to the Grand Dragon from Maryland. Now, let me give you the hierarchy of the Klan so you understand what these terms mean: Grand Dragon, Imperial Wizard, all these names. A state leader, which you and I would call the governor, who oversees the whole state. Okay, in Klan terminology, that individual is known as the Grand Dragon. He is the state leader for the Klan. Anybody that is prefixed with the term grand means that individual is a state officer. Dragon means the top officer in the state. So Grand Dragon would be like a governor. A Grand Caliph will be like a lieutenant governor. Now, and then we have secretary and treasurer and all that. And they each have the prefix grand. All right. Now, the national leader, if you have a chapter of your particular Klan group in another state or in multiple states, you can then consider yourself to be a national Klan group. So therefore, you must have a national Klan leader who oversees all the states in which you have a chapter. We call our national leader, who oversees all the states, the president. They call theirs the Imperial Wizard. Anybody prefixed with the word imperial means that person is a national officer. Wizard means the top. Imperial Caliph will be like a vice president. So at the time, this fellow named Roger Kelly was the Grand Dragon of Maryland. And I wanted to meet him. And so the guy did not want to introduce me. He was afraid that we both would get in trouble. And I persuaded him to give me Mr. Kelly's address and phone number, and I would take care of it myself. He didn't want to do it, but I persuaded him. He gave me that information on the condition that I not tell Mr. Kelly where I got it. I agreed. I said, okay. And he warned me. He said, Daryl, do not fool with Roger Kelly. Roger Kelly will kill you. I took what he was saying to heart, but I said, but that's the whole reason I need to see him. Why would he kill me? Just because of the color of my skin? I don't understand that. That's why I need to see him and do this interview. And he warned me again, but he gave me the information and also reminded me not to tell Mr. Kelly where I got it. So that's how that started. I gave the number to my secretary, and I asked her to call Mr. Kelly and tell him that she works for a man who is writing a book on the Klan. Would he consent to sitting down with her boss and interviewing? But I also instructed her not to tell Mr. Kelly that I'm Black, unless he asks. If he asks, don't lie to him, but don't give him reason to ask. I figured, I could have called him myself because I'm the one who had the phone number. But I gave it to her because she's white. And not that I care about anybody's color, but in this case I did. Because I figured if I called him, he might pick up on my voice that I'm Black and say, I'm not talking to you. Click. And my whole project would have ended before it ever got started. But I knew if Mary called him, that he would know that the voice on the other end of this phone line is a white woman. And that might increase the odds that he would give me the interview, because I knew the mentality. He would not automatically think that a white woman is working for a Black man, especially a Black man who's writing a book on the Klan, because they did not exist. So that might increase the odds. And then if he agreed to it, then once he saw me, he could decide if he wants to stay and do the interview or if he wants to leave. So that's how that worked. And she called him. He did not ask what color I was. He agreed to do the interview. And we set it up to meet at the motel above the Silver Dollar Lounge. The Silver Dollar Lounge is in the bottom of this motel. The motel is still there in Frederick, Maryland, but the Silver Dollar Lounge is closed. So Mary and I got to the room early. I gave her some money to go down the hall, and get soda pop out of the machine, put it in the ice bucket, fill it with ice, get it cold. I had no idea what this Grand Dragon was going to do when he saw me and saw that I was Black. Would he come in the room and do the interview as he told Mary on the phone he would do? Or would he attack me? Or would he say, I'm not talking to you, and turn around and walk away? I knew what I was going to do. I was going to offer him a cold beverage like I would offer anybody, any of you people, if you came to visit me. Mm-hmm. Right? So I'm going to be hospitable. So we got the soda pop, put it in the ice bucket. We're in the room waiting. And at 5:15, right on time, there's a knock, knock, knock on the door. Now, the way the room just happens to be in this motel, if somebody is standing in the hallway outside the room looking in, you cannot see who is in the room. You have to walk in, turn to your right, and go around the corner, and the room is back there. So until you're halfway in the room, you have no idea who's back there. I took the little lamp table, took the lamp off, and put a chair on one side for Mr. Kelly, a chair on the other side for myself, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a little black bag next to my chair leg. In the black bag, I had a recorder, which I put on the table, and, mm-hmm. and some cassettes, blank cassettes. And I had a copy of the Bible, because the Ku Klux Klan claims to be a Christian organization. Mm-hmm. And they believe that the Bible preaches racial separation. So I want to be able to reach down in my bag and say, here, Mr. Kelly, please show me chapter and verse where it says Blacks and whites must be separate. So I'm all prepared, right? Mm-hmm. So 5:15, knock, knock, knock on the door. Mary hops up, runs around the corner, opens the door. In walks what is known as the Grand Nighthawk. Nighthawk in Klan terminology means bodyguard, security. So mm-hmm. a Grand Nighthawk would be the bodyguard to the Grand Dragon. Mm-hmm. An Imperial Nighthawk would be the bodyguard to the Imperial Wizard, right? Mm-hmm. So in walks this Grand Nighthawk. He's wearing military camouflage, and he has that Ku Klux Klan emblem, a patch right here, the red circle, white cross, blood drop. Mm-hmm. Over here are the letters KKK. Embroidered on his cap, it said Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And on his hip, he had a semi-automatic handgun in a holster. He comes in, and he turns the corner, and he sees me sitting back there, and he like freezes right in place. Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Kelly is on the other side of the corner and doesn't realize that his Nighthawk has stopped short. So Mr. Kelly comes around the corner and knocks into this guy's back and knocks the guy forward. And they both are stumbling around trying to regain their balance. And they're like looking all over the room. And I'm sitting at the table like this, looking at them. And I can read their faces. I could see the apprehension. And I knew what they were thinking. They were thinking, did the desk clerk give us the wrong room number? Or is this an ambush? Mm-hmm. So I stood up and I went like this to show my palms. I had nothing in my hands. And I walked forward. I put my hand out. I said, hi, Mr. Kelly. I'm Daryl Davis. He shook my hand. The Nighthawk shook my hand.
What?
So far, so good. I said, please, come on in. Please have a seat. Mr. Kelly sat down. And the Nighthawk stood at attention to his right. And before I could sit down, Mr. Kelly asked me if I had any form of identification. I went in my pocket. I gave him my driver's license. And he says, oh, you live on such and such street in Silver Spring. Well, now that had me a little concerned. Why is he reading my address? All he has to do is look at my name, look at my picture, match it to me, and give me back my license. Here he is reciting my address. Mm-hmm. And, I'm thinking, is he going to come to my house and burn a cross or whatever? And I want to let him know, don't do that. What I said to him was, yes, that is my address. I said, and your address is, and I recited his address back to him. And so I was leveling the playing field. If you come visit me, I'm going to come visit you. So we're going to confine all of this visiting to this motel room. He smiled. He nodded his head. He understood. And I did not realize it that day. It was several months later. I had been presumptuous. I had no reason to fear that this Grand Dragon would come to my house and do anything nefarious. It was pure coincidence. He recognized my street name. Why? Because one of his members lived right down the road. He had to get on my street to get to this member's house. My street runs through a couple of neighborhoods. I didn't even know that he had a member living down the road from me. So he recognized the street, just pure coincidence. Today, that same member sits in a federal prison in the state of Maine for committing a hate crime. And so, he recognized the street. And so we got on with this interview. And every time he would say the Bible says, if I didn't believe it, I would reach down into my bag and pull out the Bible and hand it to him. Or if my tape, ran out, I'd reach to get a fresh tape to record. Every time I reached down, the Nighthawk reached up, to his gun. He never pulled it out, but he would rest his hand on the butt of the gun. And I totally understood that. He's doing his job. His job is bodyguard. I am the enemy, and he does not know what's in my bag. So he's doing his job to protect himself and his boss, right? And after about 45 minutes of me reaching down, him reaching up, the bodyguard, the Nighthawk, finally relaxed. I went in and out of the bag. The bodyguard didn't move. He realized there was no threat. So we're just talking. And I'd say maybe just over an hour into this interview, Mr. Kelly is sitting right here, just inches from me, because those lamp tables are small in these motel rooms. We're just talking, and out of nowhere, suddenly there was a very fast, very short noise, like a that was it. We all jumped. And I came up out of my seat, and I hit that table. I didn't know what that noise was. The noise was so short and so fast that my ear could not discern what it was. But I knew that Mr. Kelly made the noise. And how did I know that? Because I didn't make it. And so process of elimination. And so because my ear could not tell what it was, and all the background that I knew about the Klan, and the background that I knew about Mr. Kelly from that other person who said, "Daryl, don't fool with Roger Kelly, he will kill you," I perceived that noise to be an ominous, threatening noise. And I'm thinking, what did I just do? What did I do to cause Mr. Kelly to go off? And what just happened? And I came up out of my chair. I had gone into what's called survival mode because I feared for my life. And when you go into survival mode, there are only a few things you can do. Some people, they faint, they pass out because the fear is so great, their brain cannot process it, and the brain shuts down and you faint. I don't do that. So other people, their muscles will constrict and they'll ball up and start shaking, and they can't free themselves. You can be kicking them, punching them, and they're not even trying to deflect. They're frozen like this. That's called paralysis by fear. I don't do that either. Another thing people will do is to run away from the fear. That is the best option. As quickly as you can, separate yourself from the source of the fear. Get away from it. All right? That is the option that I would have chosen had it been available, but it wasn't available. How am I going to outrun a bullet in a motel room? I can't do that. The only person who I knew for sure who was armed was the bodyguard, the Nighthawk. I could see his gun. I don't know if Mr. Kelly had a weapon up under his suit and tie or not. I knew I didn't have a weapon. Mary didn't have a weapon. So I cannot outrun this. The last option you have is to do what is called a preemptive strike. Get them before they get you. And when I came up out of my chair, I was on my way to diving across that table and grabbing the Nighthawk, grabbing Mr. Kelly, and slamming them down to the ground and taking away the Nighthawk's weapon in order to immobilize the situation. But when I hit the table, I'm looking right into Mr. Kelly's eyes. I didn't say one word. I knew he could read my eyes. My eyes were saying to him, "What did you just do?" Well, his eyes were fixated on mine. He didn't say a word either. I could read his eyes. His eyes were saying to me, "What did you just do?" And the Nighthawk had his hand back on his gun again, looking at both of us like, "What did either one of y'all just do?" Well, Mary, the secretary, she was sitting to my left on top of the dresser because, there were no more chairs in the room. So she's up there. She realized what had happened, and she began explaining it when it happened again. And we all began laughing. The bucket of ice with the cans of soda was sitting to her left. And the ice had begun melting, and the cans of soda were falling down the ice. That was it. You know, somebody almost got shot over a melting ice cube,
Wow.
you know, and we all began laughing at how ignorant we all were. Now, I won't say that this was a learning moment. I will say it was a teaching moment. All right. And the lesson taught is this. The learning would come later. The lesson taught is this. All because some foreign, underscore, highlight, circle the word foreign, entity of which we were ignorant, being the bucket of ice, Kansas soda, had entered into our little comfort zone via the noise that it made. Now, you know, we were aware that there was soda pop over there, but we had long forgotten about it because we're so engrossed in conversation. So all because some foreign entity entered into our little comfort zone, unaware of us, we became fearful of each other. That ignorance made us fearful. So the lesson taught is this. Ignorance breeds fear. We fear those things we don't understand, those things of which we are ignorant. If you don't address that fear and keep it in check, that fear will escalate into hatred because we hate the things that frighten us. If you don't check that hatred will escalate into destruction. We want to destroy the things that we hate. Why? Because they frighten us. But guess what? At the end of the day, they may have been harmless and we were simply ignorant. And we saw that whole chain unravel almost to completion. It stopped just short of that last component, destruction. Had the Nighthawk put out his gun and shot somebody, namely me or my secretary, because his job is to protect himself and his boss, or had I pounced across the table and hurt one of them, because my job is to protect myself and protect my secretary. So it stopped just short of that. But back in 2017, on August the 12th, you all will recall, because you all are familiar with it, there was a big white supremacist rally in the town of Charlottesville, Virginia. And on that day, there was a lot of ignorance in Charlottesville. There was a lot of fear in Charlottesville, a lot of hatred. And what did it culminate in? It culminated in destruction when a white supremacist got inside his vehicle and drove at full speed, full force into the crowd of counter-protesters, attempting to murder as many as he could. He succeeded in injuring over 24 protesters and murdering one young lady named Heather Heyer. Okay, so ignorance breeds fear, fear breeds hatred, hatred breeds destruction. All right, so now I think, though, in our country, we spend too much time, dealing with the destruction. I say this: forget about the destruction. Whatever has been destroyed is not coming back. It's done. All right. The destruction is a byproduct, a symptom of the root cause. So don't waste time addressing that. Don't waste time addressing the hatred. Again, that's a byproduct of the root cause. Don't waste time addressing the fear, another byproduct, another symptom. Address the root cause. The root cause is ignorance. If you cure the ignorance, then there's no reason to have fear, because there's nothing to fear, right? You fear that of which you are ignorant. But if you cure the ignorance, there's nothing to fear. With nothing to fear, there's nothing to hate. With nothing to hate, there's nothing to get mad about and destroy. The good thing is there is a cure for ignorance. That cure is called exposure and education. And that's where we need to focus our energy, our efforts, our time, is providing that exposure, that education to curing that ignorance. I have, as a child, I told you about my travels around the world. Today, as an adult, I continue traveling around the world, performing music or giving lectures on this topic. When you combine my childhood travels with my adulthood travels, I have now been in a total of 64 countries on 6 continents. I have performed in all 50 states. What does that mean other than I have a lot of frequent flyer miles and hotel points? What it means is I have been exposed to a wide variety of skin colors, ethnicities, cultures, religions, ideologies. All of that has helped shape who I have become today. One of my very favorite quotes of all time is by Mark Twain, and it's called the travel quote. And Mark Twain said, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime." And that is so true. Now, I'm going to say this. All that travel that I have done does not make me a better human being than somebody with less travel. But what it does is it gives me a better and broader perspective on humanity than people who've not been exposed to other humans around the world. And I will tell you this. I know for a fact, because I have experienced it, no matter how far I go from our country, the United States, whether I go right next door to Canada or right next door to Mexico or halfway around the earth to the other side, no matter who I encounter, some people look like me, some people don't look like me. Maybe they look like me, maybe they don't look like me. Maybe they don't speak my language. Maybe they don't worship as I do, or maybe they don't even worship at all. I always conclude one thing. Everybody I have met is a human being. And as such, every human being on this planet wants these 5 core values in their lives. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be respected. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be treated fairly and truthfully. And we all want the same things for our family as anybody else would want for their family. And if we can learn to apply those 5 core values, or any of those 5 values, when we find ourselves in an adversarial situation or in a culture or society in which we are unfamiliar or uncomfortable, I will guarantee you that your navigation of that situation, that society, that culture will be much more smooth, much more positive, and much more productive. And that's how I have been able to successfully conduct interviews with KKK members, neo-Nazis, and other white supremacists and racists for the last 45 years. And over 200 of them have renounced that ideology. And to prove it, I have robes and hoods and swastika flags and all kinds of stuff that they have given me as a result of their leaving behind that ideology and seeing the light. And that includes Mr. Kelly. When I met Mr. Kelly, he was the Grand Dragon, the head of the Ku Klux Klan for the state of Maryland. He rose through the ranks. He became a national leader, an imperial wizard. And as an imperial wizard was when he decided, because our friendship kept growing that whole time, and he began thinking about the things I was telling him and the things that I would expose him to and educate him about. And then one day he surprised me. He renounced the Klan and he gave me his robe and hood.
Wow. What a story. What a story. I want people to hear you as a musician very quickly. It's amazing to hear how you are playing the piano. I would like to see you play the piano. Like, I want to see you in action, because I'm like, how is he playing the piano that quick? Like, how are those fingers moving? Like, what makes you tick? I see Mark is laughing. Like, what? Yeah, like,
I'm a witness. I've seen it. That's why I'm laughing. I'm a witness. I played with him.
So how did it feel watching him? Like,
I was playing with him on Martin Luther King Day, and was it Rockville, Maryland?
Rockville, Maryland, sure enough. Maryland,
at the Strathmore. So yeah, I was amazed because we did a quick sound check. We didn't even really play the song. We just did a little quick sound check, and after he gave the speech and everything, gave us a story. He got on the plane. It was like, oh, is this dude 20 years old or something?
Well, come on, man. I don't look that old, do I? Come on.
I'm just saying, where you were playing, man. You were playing like a 20-year-old kid. I mean, yeah, we were all amazed.
I'm 21 now.
Okay, you're 21. Okay, I'll live with that. But yeah, go ahead, Pepper. I'm sorry.
Well, okay, so today is a very special day. One of my biggest musical heroes passed away today, back in 2017. He was the man who invented rock and roll. I worked for him. I played piano for him for 32 years. Not every gig, but many gigs. His name was Charles Edward Anderson Berry, better known to most people as Chuck Berry. He's the man who invented rock and roll. And without Chuck Berry, there would be no Elvis Presley, no Beatles, no Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Elton John, Ted Nugent, Metallica. Anybody who plays rock music, all of their DNA goes back to Chuck Berry. It's just like this. I don't care what kind of car you drive, whether you drive a Chevrolet or a Mazda, Toyota, or a Lamborghini, Ferrari, Rolls Royce, it doesn't matter. Every car out there, all its DNA goes back to Henry Ford and his Model A and his Model T.
Right.
Okay. Right. Chuck Berry is the Model A and Model T of rock music. All right. Okay. So a lot of his stuff is fast music. Johnny B. Good, Roll Over Beethoven, Sweet Little 16, Nadine, Maybelline. So I'm playing that boogie-woogie piano behind him.
Well, let's hear the boogie-woogie piano and the boogie-woogie fingers right now. This is Daryl Davis, y'all. Check this out right here. Yes, yes, yes.
You know what's funny is the people singing backup. You know, the boogity woogity woogity woogie shoot in the background. Those are members of the Howard University choir, and
wow.
I recorded that, you know, long after I graduated. But the choir, you know, I was in the choir, you know, when I was going to school there, and so I called the same choir director was still there when I recorded that song years later, and I called him and I said, hey, I need to use some of the choir singers for a recording I'm going to do. He said, oh, okay, you know, come on down, let's talk about it. So I came down to Howard and talked to him. He goes, you want them to sing what?
Wow.
Well, I know our time is getting so limited, and you know, you have given us a lot of information. I wish we could spend like another 2 hours just talking with you.
Well, you know, let me say a couple of things that are very important that I think everybody needs to understand. You know, we are living in very divided times,
Right?
And we always have. But I will say this, regardless of how bad we may think it is right now, I say this is the best time ever right now with what's going on. And I'll tell you why. Because when we don't see things, people tend to deny them. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. If I don't hear it, it doesn't exist. Right now, it exists. It's front and center in your face. No matter where you look, where you turn, you're going to hear it, you're going to see it, and you're caught up in this division. So now is the time to address it. Let's not try to deny what's in our face. Let's address it now and get it fixed. The greatest weapon known to man to dismantle conflict, such as racism, anti-Semitism, or any type of discrimination, is the least expensive weapon. It's free, but yet it remains the most underused. It's called conversation. I am a firm believer that a missed opportunity for dialogue is a missed opportunity for conflict resolution. A missed opportunity for conversation is a missed opportunity for reconciliation. Let's have these conversations. We spend way too much time in this country talking about the other person, talking at the other person, and talking past the other person. Let's spend a little bit of time talking with the other person. You know, we call ourselves the greatest nation on the face of this earth. And I have trouble with that statement. Don't get me wrong. This is my country. I believe in my country. It has its flaws, but we're working on them. They can be fixed. But perhaps we are the greatest nation technologically. After all, we put a man on the moon. And while astronaut Neil Armstrong was up there walking around on the moon, talking about one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind, we were able to talk with him live from Earth all the way to the moon via satellite radio phone. We invented that technology. Every one of you and every one of your listeners and viewers out there have email and a cell phone. You type a few words, type a few numbers, hit send. You're talking to people all the way across the country or even around the face of the earth. So how is it that we can talk to people as far away as the moon or anywhere on this planet, but yet so many of us are unable to talk to people who live right next door because of a different skin color, a different religion, a different persuasion, a different whatever? It seems to me that before we can call ourselves the greatest, perhaps our ideology needs to catch up to our technology. All right. And then we can truly brag. We are living in space age times. Let us stop thinking with Stone Age minds. And remember, when two enemies are talking, they're not fighting. They're talking. They may be disagreeing. Maybe they're even getting a little loud, but at least they're talking. It's when the conversation ceases that the ground becomes fertile for violence. So let's keep the conversation going.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, I had one question for you. In an interview that I saw with you and the actor Morgan Freeman, you discussed this man by the name of Robert White, who was in prison inspired to bomb a synagogue, and then later spent 3 years behind bars for attempting to murder 2 black men with a shotgun. And his day job was a Baltimore City police officer.
That's right. And you know, he was not an undercover cop. in the Klan gathering intelligence. He was a bona fide Klansman on the Baltimore City Police Department. And guess what? There are more. There are plenty more. Okay. Police in white supremacist movements is nothing new. All right. It's always happened, since the beginning. Okay. It still happens today. And in fact, it's being ramped up today. They are concentrating on recruiting law enforcement and veterans, people coming back from the war in Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever, because these people have training in weapons and bomb making and survival skills. So the white supremacist groups try to recruit them into these groups to teach them how to do that. So we're seeing, you saw a lot of that on January 6th insurrection. You saw police officers and veterans attacking our U.S. Capitol. Now, that's not to say that all police officers or all veterans are bad people. No. We cannot paint, a broad brush, but they are individuals within those units that are being recruited. Yes.
Right.
And if you recall, the 3 civil rights workers in 1964, Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner, down in Mississippi, who were murdered. They were murdered. The sheriff and his deputy were in the Klan. Sheriff Lawrence Rainey and Deputy Cecil Price, who set up their murders by the Ku Klux Klan, were also Klan members.
Wow, unreal.
But the guy you're talking about, Bob White,
yes.
I met him. He was vehemently racist and anti-Semitic. He left the Klan. Today, I own his robe and hood and his police uniform.
Oh, my goodness. So now, what has been the most surprising insight you've gained in your journey that you believe our listeners should know about, that, something that you would like to share?
Well, sure. All of us and all the listeners out there, when we were kids, we heard the phrase, a tiger does not change its stripes. A leopard does not change its spots. And that's true. And so why would I think that a Klansman or Klanswoman would change their robe and hood, or a Nazi would change his swastika? That's who he is, right? I was wrong. A leopard and tiger cannot change their spots. They are born with those stripes and spots. But a Klansman or Klanswoman is not born with that robe and hood. A Nazi or neo-Nazi is not born with that swastika. That is a learned behavior, an acquired thing. What can be learned can be unlearned. And as I said in the very front, I am a musician, right? My degree is in music. I'm not a sociologist or a psychologist, and I'm one person. If I can get out there and effect that kind of change, anybody can do it. All right. We all need to take a role in our future and in the future of the people that come after us, just like your parents, my parents, made it possible for us not to have to ride in the back of the bus or drink from a certain water fountain or be refused service in certain restaurants, etc. We did not have to live the way they did. Have we experienced racism? Of course we have. It still exists, but it's better for us today than it was for them back in the day. So it's incumbent upon us to make it better for a future. And, now listen, I have my share of detractors as well. There are people who don't agree with me, and that's fine. All right. But I will say this. People say, well, it's not your job to teach white racists how to treat you. Well, no, it should be nobody's job. That's something, they should have learned at home. But here's the problem. If you've been mistreated for 400 years and you're still being mistreated, it may be time for you to do something different so that you're not being mistreated. So yes, I took a radical direction, but guess what? It works. And I got the robes and hoods to prove it. And when people, accuse me of this, that, and the other, I say to them, well, how many robes and hoods have you collected? I've got over 200.
Ooh, powerful.
So no one has wanted to sue you?
No, but I have sued some of them.
Okay. So do you think the outcome would be different if you were darker complexion than the complexion of your skin now when you were playing with the country band? Like would they have looked at you differently walking in as a dark complexion Black man?
No, because I don't think they don't see that. You know, if you're not white, then you are not what they like. All right. So it doesn't matter if you're light skinned black or black. You know, you're black. That's all. You know, even if you're half white and half black.
But there were people that spoke to you.
Yeah. But now understand something, though. A Klansman or Klanswoman is not stamped, or a racist for that matter, is not stamped out of a standard cookie cutter. They come from all different walks of life. That's like saying all black people think alike and do everything alike, and they all vote the same way. No, that's not true. Klan people are just as different as anybody else. Yes, they all have a certain mentality, which is why they fit into that group. But they come from all different backgrounds, from third grade dropout all the way to President of the United States. All right. President Warren G. Harding was sworn into the Ku Klux Klan in the green room of the White House. President Woodrow Wilson premiered Birth of a Nation in the green room of the White House. President Harry Truman was a Klan member before he became president. Now, he didn't like the Klan. He got out of it and went on to become president. Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black was in the Klan when he got the appointment to sit on the Supreme Court as a justice. He had to leave the Klan to get in there. Senator Robert Byrd, who just died a few years ago, he was the oldest living senator. He was from West Virginia. He was a Klansman back in the 1940s. And later on, he did a lot of great things for civil rights. So people can change, and they come from all different walks of life. But they don't change until they learn something, until they're exposed to something, until they get re-educated. Because like I said, nobody is born with this ideology. And I gave people reason to change. Is everybody going to change? No. There will be people on all sides who will go to their grave being hateful, violent, and racist. But I have seen some of those come back to me and apologize and change. But I've also seen some of them go to their grave feeling the same way.
Wow. Well, we thank you so much for joining us here on Four Corners. Michael, did you have another question, or Mark?
You know, I asked all my questions in the that day at the Strathmore when I had them in the dressing room. I was wearing his ear out because, you know, we shared some similar. I shared a similar story where I worked with, you know, some guys who were a part of the Klan, and it was strange. He would say Frederick. I said, yeah, they live in Frederick and Gaithersburg. This was in the late 80s. And I said, a couple of guys warmed up to me, like you said, when they found out, you know, I wasn't a lazy black man. I was there, come to work every day early, stay late, and they realized that, hey, he's not like that. And that's why, you know, we were talking about that. That's when you shared with me, people had to be educated about some of us, because sometimes people were taught something their whole life. And you said, I remember you saying that, Daryl, when you taught something your whole life, you believe it until you see something different. Exactly.
You know,
and I'll never forget that.
You're exactly right, Mark. You know, and that goes to say, you know, we've all heard the saying, one's perception is one's reality. Even if it's not real, it's their reality if that's what they perceive. So Mark broke that perception and therefore altered their reality. Now they got a new perception and it resonated. So they had to change their reality of thinking, oh, he's just like everybody else. You know, he's lazy, he doesn't want to work, da 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 da. So that perception was shattered. And that's, you know, that's what we have to do is, you know, don't attack somebody's reality, because if you attack their reality, you're going to get resistance, because that's all they know, you know. But what you do is you give them a better perception, and then they change their own reality. And, you know, you asked earlier, right before we went on, you know, what's going on today with all this divisiveness and stuff like that. This country is changing demographically. When we were children, and I'm older than all y'all, but doesn't matter. When we were children, the black population in this country was 12%. Native Americans, 1%. Latino Hispanic Americans, 2%. Asian Pacific Islanders, 3%. White people were like 86, 87%. The U.S. Census is taken every 10 years, every decade. And this is happening. It is well predicted in the year 2042, this country for the first time will be 50-50, 50% white, 50% black, or people of color, Hispanic, black, etc. That'll be the first time in history that we've been 50-50. Between 2045 and 2050, it's going to flip. and whites will become the minority for the very first time. You people are old enough to know the term white flight. White flight no longer exists because the color of the American landscape has changed so much that anywhere you go, there's already somebody there who doesn't look like you. So when this happens, there is a large percentage of white people who don't care. They say, that doesn't bother me. That's evolution. No big deal. But there's also a large percentage that do care. And those are the ones that I'm dealing with, the ones that I'm talking about now. And what they tell me is, Daryl, I don't want my grandchildren to be brown. They call it the browning of America, or white genocide through miscegenation, race mixing. And they're very fearful of that, you know, and that's why a certain man wants Canada to become the 51st state. A certain man wants to buy Greenland. Okay, that will up the white percentage in this country. That is what this is all about.
Wow.
It is.
Wow.
They feel like they are disappearing.
Exactly.
We're not going to be around. They're going to take over. We're not going to be, yeah.
And that's why they're stoking fear. The Mexicans are bringing rapists and murderers and crime across the border, as though we don't have rapists and crime already here, right? Homegrown. The Haitians are coming and they're eating your pets, you know.
And who's been raping who forever? Okay,
right.
Okay.
Who raped who, and now sits in the highest position in this country.
So has anyone, or have you thought about taking a trip to DC to sit down with him? Is that
actually, I played for him many years ago, long before he ever got into politics. He put on some kind of charity benefit for children. I was part of the entertainment. Sam Moore from Sam and Dave, I'm a soul man, hold on, I'm coming, and all that. And Jerry Lee Lewis, my buddy. We were the entertainment, and my band backed up Sam Moore and Jerry Lee. But no, I've not had the opportunity to sit down with him. But I would welcome it.
Yeah. Hey, one more road to put on the wall. Hey, I got 200. Take another one.
Well, I don't have. I don't have 200 rows, but I have over 200 artifacts from over 200 people. Yeah. I have probably 65, 70 rows and hoods.
Okay. Well, we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Great information.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can you hold up the books again?
Yes.
And since you said one is out of print, you don't have any at the house?
I have this one. Listen, this is my first book right here. This one is out of print. There are some booksellers that still have leftover copies.
Okay.
Do not go on Amazon or eBay looking for it, because they're greedy. They jack up the price to some astronomical figure because it's out of print. All right. So what I did was this new book right here, The Klan Whisperer. It has all of the old book in it, plus new stories and updates. The old book came out in 1997. This just came out last month. All right. So this has everything from the old book, plus new stories and updates. And you can find this on Amazon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice. You're welcome. I need to get that book. There's a recently Black owned bookstore that just opened in Austin. So I need to have them to reach out to you to get that book in their
Absolutely.
store.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Well,
I want to thank you all for having me. I really appreciate you all having me.
Thank you for taking the time to come on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. Maybe we call this part 1, and someday we'll do part 2.
Oh,
hey, yes, sir.
Yes.
Get you back for that.
I had questions. I was like,
Yes. Well, thank you again, Daryl. We really appreciate
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we gotta get that book and have you back on, and then Pepper can fire away.
You'll have more questions then.
I have more questions. Yeah, I was jotting.
We'll start with Pepper.
So, Michael, who's coming up?
On our next show, we're going to have singer, songwriter, producer Tracy Hamlin out of the DC area. And on April 29th, we're going to have the lead singer, Mr. Gerald Austin of the group, the Manhattans. And the Manhattans will be here. So it will be Gerald Austin and the Manhattans on April 29th. So we hope that you join in. And there also is a special announcement that you would like to make, something that you're doing, Pepper, that I heard about on Thursday. You're doing an interview?
Oh, yes. I forgot about that. I am being interviewed by the African American Network TV on Thursday at 12 noon. They are out of San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, great.
And they reached out to me to interview me because it is Women's Month, March. So they wanted to showcase and talk about what I do and how I do it and why I do it. And so that is 12 noon. And I'll get the link out to everyone and it'll be available even after the interview. But yeah, it's at 12 noon on this coming Thursday. So I'm excited. And then I'll be doing a special also on Saturday on my radio show. I'm doing a tribute to Roberta Flack, Angie Stone, and Frankie Beverly. So that will be on Saturday, 3 hours of their music. So it's going to be really, really good. Yeah, it's going to be nice.
Great.
Yeah. So all minds clear?
All minds
They
clear?
are.
Act like we're at the church house. All minds clear. All minds clear. Don't forget, you guys, go over to, if you have not subscribed to Four Corners, please do so on YouTube and hit that notification button so you can get the notifications when we come on, which is on Tuesdays. It varies, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever Tuesday. But if you get that notification on the link for the Four Corners with Pepper Thomas on YouTube, you will be notified when we come on. So thank you again. Have a great week. It is Tuesday.
And we forgot to get Daryl's website.
Darren, what is your website so I can type that in?
It is Daryl spelled Daryl, only one R, Daryl, DarylDavis.com.
There it is. So everyone, let me go back over here and type Daryl Davis. I did it in the private chat. DarylDavis.com. Okay. So there it is. So everyone, there is the website, DarylDavis.com. And we have someone, Deborah Meekin says, thank you for the marvelous and informative guest, Daryl Davis. We thank you, Deborah.
And Deborah, it only has one R, but yes, thank you very much. That's why I always say that.
That's my Philadelphia friend.
now, actually, there is another Daryl Davis, and he spells his with two R's. He's a very famous, excellent real estate agent. He has a super real estate company, and his website is DarylDavis.com with two R's. So if you want me, make sure you use one R. Otherwise, you'll get him. He'll try to sell you a house.
Much more expensive than a book.
Yeah, but he's a great guy. He gets my emails. I get his emails, and we just swap them back and forth and laugh.
That's pretty cool. Okay. So, Michael, what day was Tracy's?
Tracy Hamlin, April 1st.
April 1st, okay.
And that's not April Fool's, right?
No.
I know.
And the man,
is that April Fool's Day?
Mr. Gerald Austin on April 29th.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at Four Corners. We love what we do, and this is a very, very good interview today. This is like, eye-opening. Okay, and Deborah says, okay, I'll remember that.
Thank you, Deborah.
2 R's. I got 1 R, not 2. So, yeah, thank you for joining us, and we will see you on April the 1st. And it's not an April Fool's joke, but we will be here April 1st. So, see you guys then.
Thank you.
If you want that inspirational, turn your radios. Sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corners Show. Sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corners Show. If you want that grounding inspirational, then turn your radio to the Four Corners Show. Hot and spicy topics, come enjoy the show. So let's get personal on the Four Corners Show. Sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corners Show. You gotta sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corners Show. If you want inspirational. Turn your radio